Welcome back to lesson 20. Okay, so in this lesson we're going to finish off the shoulders. We're going to add in a blade on the shoulder and mirror on the other side. So first things first, we're going to shift A. We're going to bring in a plane. We're going to scale that down, move it along in the transform. We're using the little gizmo transforms. I'm just going to rotate it, scale it down, place it roughly where I think I'm going to put it, and then I'm going to go into edit mode, select the edge. I'm going to press Control and right click after selecting the edge, and then just as we're just selecting and clicking on the screen, we're in orthographic front view, so we know it's going to be straight. After we've made a little bend, we're going to then edit each vertex, and in press number 1 in edit mode, and then just edit each vertex, making it pointy and just changing the shape a bit and perhaps rotating it a little. So just basically making it nice and straight, or just changing it to whatever style you wish to make it for the shoulder piece. I did lose a little bit of footage, but this is just how I was doing it. You're just moving the points from point to point and clicking and dragging the vertices. I'm just going to place it roughly here on the top of the shoulder. Okay, so when you've placed it where you like to place it on the shoulder, I've just made some sort of an S-shaped curve here. Sorry, this is when I lost a little bit of the footage. But all I was doing was moving the vertices, making it nice and curvy like so. Feel free to add more geometry if you need to by pressing Ctrl R. So when we've got that done, we're going to add in the modifiers. We're going to use modifier number 1, that's the solidifier. We're going to increase the thickness to 0.09. Just checking it to make sure it looks good, and it does. Second modifier we are going to use is the bevel. I selected the subdivision here, but we will use that secondly, so I'm just going to remove that and now bring out the bevel. I'm going to increase the amount to 0.01, just to increase the edges on the side edges there and the segments to 2. Then we're going to add a third modifier, which is the subdivision surface. It's very important sometimes to keep it in order on your modifiers. So we're going to just increase the levels to 2. Then the fourth modifier we will add is the mirror. And now we are going to click on the shoulders, and if you haven't already got the 3D cursor there, press Shift S, click down to cursor to selected. That would then, your 3D cursor will then be selected to the shoulders where the origin point is. And then we click back to our object, and we will reset our transforms by pressing Ctrl A. And then we right click and set origin to 3D cursor. This will then mirror your object exactly to the way the shoulders are also mirrored on the X axis, as you can see, and over on our mirror modifier we're also going to click Y. So now it's on the Y and the X axis, and it's perfectly in line and mirrored exactly. So from here we're going to just bring in a UV sphere. This is optional. This is just something that I was just playing around with. I just thought it'd be nice to have something animated perhaps in the on the shoulders when I bring this to light. This obviously, if you want this for 3D printing, I wouldn't recommend adding a sphere here. You can always add something else, or if you want to add a sphere here, just make sure it is connected for 3D printing, so nothing is loose or falls off. Everything so far should be fine for 3D printing. There might be a few things that might be a bit loose, but that should be okay. I use subdivision surface just to round off the sphere. However, if you just hit shade smooth, it will just right click and hit shade smooth, and the whole sphere will look smooth. So therefore I just removed the subdivision on the sphere just for now. And then there we have it. We're just going to click back on the sphere. We're going to go over and reset our transforms, Control A, reset all transforms, and then use the mirror modifier on the X-axis just to mirror on the other side. Once you're happy with that, let's now bring in a new mesh. Let's bring in another UV sphere. This is going to be the collar around the neck. I'm going to go into edit mode, move it in edit mode, move it down, scale it down if you need to, just so it's below the chin and so you can see all the geometry. The bigger it is, don't worry about it. If it's too small, it might be not enough mesh to get around the neck because we want it to stick out through the collar. So when you're happy of placing the mesh where you want to place it, I've just made it nice and big just so it makes things a little easier to sculpt it down than to make it bigger later on. So we're going to go into sculpt mode. We want to turn it on the X mirror on the top right there. We want to just click on the X, so we're mirroring it now. We want to go into the draw sharp brush tool and hold control and just push it in. So as I was doing this, the bigger your brush, depending on your view of your angle, just hold control, push it in, and we're just going to go over and push it down. As you can see, pushing it down into the neck. Maybe my brush was a bit too big because it's pushing the sides away. We want the collar to come round a bit. So I'm just going to also push the outside of the collar in a little bit, because so it's not going into the shoulders. And then we'll switch to the grab brush and we will try and make some kind of nice looking front piece of the neck. We might stick a ruby or a diamond or an emerald or something like that in the front for decoration later on. But for now, let's just try and make it look nice before we remesh it. We will remesh this once we have got it into the shape and position we prefer. It is nice and easy to, when it's low poly like this, it is actually nice to place it specifically in the areas you want to place them before remeshing. I always thought sometimes remeshing it straight away is easy for sculpting. Actually, it turns out it can be a little bit harder to sculpt. It's always good to start small, as in, start big topology and then get smaller and smaller as you model and resculpt it as you go along. So I'm just using the grab brush here, just pulling up the collar side piece, and we will remesh this and make it look a little nicer, but we are just carefully pushing it in and out and pushing in around the sides. Now we just need to sort the top bit and the back out. So I'm just holding control on the grab brush and just pushing it in a little, and just pulling and pushing it again on the top. Just like repositioning it in a nice position. Switch to draw sharp. It's probably easier using the draw sharp when pushing in geometry, since it is on mirror and that takes a better shape, a better form. So sometimes I do use press control on the grab brush to push geometry in, but I think draw sharp acts differently slightly, and it's probably better to use the draw sharp to push geometry in. The back of the neck, we're going to just smooth that down, and we might have to change. We might change that later on. We might change it and make it come down at the back maybe. Pressing question mark, that's / on your key, will isolate your object in sculpt mode, making everything else disappear and just making the main object appear in front of you so you can see behind it and inside of it. And then you press the key again, / the question mark button on the keyboard, and it brings everything back. It's very, very handy sometimes when you're trying to sculpt something that is, as you can see, it's difficult to see from certain angles because the hair or the shoulders or anything can be in the way. So we're just going to probably push this in the body a little bit. We'll more than likely come back to it later on. Just tap it here and there just to smooth it over, and then we'll add some topology to the neck collar and perhaps some further detail as well. So once you're all done and you're happy of the neck piece, probably just going to remodel it, make it a little better than what it is. Probably come out on the collar on the sides a bit. I believe the Draw Sharp brush is the most popular brush in sculpting, since it holds three very main values when sculpting. You're drawing on, you're pushing in the geometry, and then you're smoothing it over. So that's three little keys, is why I think it's a very popular brush to be using. And then obviously the grab tool is also the very popular brush. So I'm just going to go over the neck, and when you're happy with that, we're going to leave it there and remesh it in the next lesson.